Welcome to episode 189 of the Winners and Losers Show, hosted by me, Hank Thompson. Hi, everybody. It's me. You probably don't know who I am. This is your first time for lots of you. Welcome, new subscribers. Welcome, new people who are about to unsubscribe. Your choice is valid, the one you're about to make. Holy crap. So this is the first time recording since I posted the first 46 minutes of Tell the Truth Jank and the 2 clips. And wow, weird week. It feels I just want to crawl into a little tiny ball. I want to turn into a tiny ball and then crawl and roll into a hole and then have someone dump lava down that hole and I never have to think about any of this again. I'm so tired. I'm so tired of it. I lots of mixed feelings, lots of mixed emotions happening around here. Mostly I'm just tired. I had a few crash moments this past week. There's so much I have to do. Promotion. See, that's how bad I am at promotion. I can't even say it. So what's going to happen in this episode is I'm going to go through comments from the big video that's up. It's got 13.5 thousand views, which is freaking awesome. Like on the possibility scale, there's like maybe 5 views or something, and then there's a couple million all in a few days. You know, like the launch, and it's actually ended up somewhere within my hopes, meaning like I knew it wouldn't be either of those the tiniest outcome or the biggest outcome. But of course I would love it if, I was being interviewed by Katie Couric on the Today Show already about it and co-hosting The View and accepting my Academy Award winning Oscar nomination speech from, what am I saying? So obviously I hoped for bigger. We all need that because we're all so fucking desperate for money in this society that if we associate all that shit with the alleviation of the stress caused by not having, okay, I'm getting off onto my own bullshit. But I've been thrilled by the response. There's been so many great comments. There's been so many supportive comments and plenty of critical ones too, which I expected. One thing that I'm actually quite happy to see is that people are using the word documentary to describe this, because part of me was like, is this not, maybe this isn't, maybe people aren't going to agree with me that this is a documentary. Maybe that's not the right word for this, because doing it on YouTube, doing it in these kind of big chunks, it's all sort of unusual, I guess, but that's the internet. It's it's the Wild West, to use probably a metaphor that doesn't really make sense if you really break it down. So yeah, it's fine. I think I could have whiffed more, but promoting is my worst skill. I don't know how to do that. I write emails that are awkward. I'm not good at any of that. I don't have that skill. I can be funny. I can be witty. I can miss the mark constantly, meaning I sometimes will tweet something I think is funny or what, meaning like I have writing skills, but I don't have, as I've come to understand autism, geez, there you go. Take a swig. I've already mentioned autism. That's what I do on this show. I have social skills, but I don't have socializing skills. So I misread situations. I very much write long emails. If you're somebody who's gotten a response from me on the comments, you'll notice I often write longer than the comment itself. It'll make me think of stuff, and I'll go into multiple paragraphs sometimes. So it's just, I have a paragraph brain. My brain spits out full on fucking essays as a single thought, kind of. And I that's sort of what this podcast is me trying to keep up, my mouth attempting to keep up with my thoughts. Usually I do stories. Usually I do news things. In the last year and a half or 2, it's been pretty inconsistent around here because I've been secretly working on this project. And that's eaten up a crap ton of my energy and my time and my focus. And ultimately, I'd love to get to a point where there's an audience supporting me well past to this TYT stuff. Obviously, this is going to be the focus for a little while. How could it not be? It's a big deal. It's not done. I still have a ton more work to do. And but, just a little bit of biography. That's what I was going to say earlier, is what we're doing. We're doing the comments. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about myself, just because I know a lot of new people are turning up here and checking me out for the first time. So thanks for giving me a chance. Hang with me. I can be a little bit much. I think I worry. I'm sure I am. I'm a lot. I can be a lot. I can also just be really annoying. And hyper self-awareness is one of those ways. So let's see. So I'm going to talk about myself a bit and then kind of get into the comments. So that's the plan. Usually, though, these shows start with like 30 minutes of me just rambling about how annoying it is having a cat. Anybody in Los Angeles? It's just, I have a person who's interested in the cat, but she's not answering my latest message on Facebook, and I created a fucking Facebook account just to try to get rid of this cat because these Facebook groups. It's so hard to find someone who says yes to a cat. It is so difficult. So many people have cats. She's a great cat too, by the way. A wonderful fucking cat. If you're looking at previous podcasts, there's a couple videos they're buried in there. I might make a standalone of the cat story because I filmed a whole bunch of it. I have to get my wrist brace on here, my arm. And so, yeah, I need to get rid of this cat. I just don't want a fucking cat in my room. I trapped a cat in here. She was starving outside my building. We kind of connected. We brought her indoors. It was getting cold, winter, LA winter, but still fucking cold. You can get down into the low upper middle 40s. And so now I'm stuck with a cat. I can't afford it anyway. I have to borrow money to buy food for the cat. It's completely irresponsible to have a cat for me. And but I'm committed to the idea that she should find a safe, healthy home. The shelters are impossible to find space anyway. And even if I could, I don't think I would be able to give her up to a shelter. So it's a foster situation. And fuck, I'm just so tired. Daily mental anxiety spin-outs about the cat that I've had for at least over a year since I've had her indoors. And so I'm pushing hard to get rid of her and find her a home. Sorry. So that's what usually this podcast is. It's a guy trying not to talk about the Young Turks documentary he's making while complaining about having a cat and how annoying it is to try to solve this weird problem. And eventually I'll be a guy who's not trying to get rid of a cat. And that'll be really fucking great. Comes with so much stuff. We bought so much shit. My roommate, super nice, generous man. So we spent a shit ton of money, like 4 or 5 cat bed. I spent a bunch of money, a warm up cat bed. You can actually see that well, maybe not. It's in the shot back there. That's that kind of brown thing over my shoulder. It's plug-in. It gives a little heat underneath her. She loves that. Cat houses, all kinds of shit, man. Custom litter box. Come on. What do I got to do? What do I got to do to move a cat? To get a cat moved into your, and then you get to see me cry. I'll drop her off. I'll get all emotional. I won't be able to regulate my feelings, and that'll be the story. And it's freaky because it's a terrible way to find somebody. Because this is a great way to trick me into walking into a murder trap. It's the internet. It's scary. I'll have to. So if anybody actually literally does reach out, I'm going to need to make sure you're not some crank. Be patient. I'm going to be paranoid. I think I have a good reason to be paranoid right now. So, but it is plausible. There's so many more good people in the world than rotten people. But we're on the asshole factory planet, and the emotionally deranged, destabilized humanity planet, and the stressed out planet, the work cult planet that we're trapped on with these fucking rotten system of employerism and bosses, and we have to end the tyranny and renegotiate consent around work. So yeah. All right. Who the fuck am I? What the hell? Oh, you can get some of these answers on the Letterhack podcast with Matt Strackbine. I've been watching that show for quite a while. I don't catch every minute, but I've really come to admire the way Matt does his interviews and the kind of gentle, mild-manneredness that he operates with too. And I was very privileged and grateful that he wanted to talk to me when he got wind of this project. And we had a really good conversation. It was a bit awkward. I think I started out talking some stupid shit about white guys or something, of normalness, or I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. But overall, it was within the parameters of what I'm like generally. I always hate myself while talking, and I think, oh, you idiot. Why are you saying that? Oh, you moron. There's like a very harsh critic going on. And then I watch it back and I go, it's fine. That guy's not so bad. That guy said something funny. That's what I would say when I watch it, because I'm like, that guy's funny. And I'm like, yeah, I think I agree. And then I fall into a fractal loop of egotistical admiration for the sense of humor I'm betting on for my life. What a fucking mistake that was. So anyway, but so I'm going to probably say some of the same things as I said on that show, but go check it out because it's good. And he has some good questions too about the whole project and all that. So what's my deal? I used to do stand-up comedy. That was like my shift from normie life to pursuing some sort of entertainment career. Let's see, that's 2009. So I did it for over 7 years ish, but I probably only got about 6 years of experience in that time, which is not nothing. But it's still, I wasn't able to make it work here in LA. I started out in Chicago doing stand-up, and I got hooked on it pretty early. Started late in life at that. It was kind of a, not an immediate career switch, but I ran an aquarium service. Say hi to the shrimp squad. Oh my God, look at all of them feeding. Look at that. Look at them. Horrifying. People are probably going to be grossed out by that sometimes. Sometimes it's just like, it's probably just stupid. What are you doing? Maybe that's just disgusting. Because if I get boring, you can watch those disgusting bugs on the other side of the screen. But, so I used to own an aquarium service in college. I'm just kind of rewind a little. I in high school was a weird guy, but a good talker. I knew I was funny. I would say funny shit, and the teacher would laugh, and everybody would laugh often. But I never got in trouble for any of that because my timing was perfect. But I had very few friends. I had like one or two people I was friends, like sort of the stuff that when you learn what autism is and you have no idea at age 42, like I did 2 years ago. And then a very common thing for late identified autistics is to look back on their whole life and be like, oh, yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, that's why I was like, yeah, oh, that experience, oh, that one specific day, oh, that whole 4-year period. That was all kind of, and you sort of re-experience your entire life through a new lens of autism, which is someone who's dealt with mental illness problems, depression and anxiety, and I've had addiction problems and all kinds of other kind of intensities and struggles, social problems for sure. In other words, like always struggled to make and keep friends and connect with people, and all this reasons why I need your help promoting the video because I'm bad at the promotion part of it. So anyway, then mine's the kind of profile that is, they weren't looking for it in the early 80s. I have good language skill. I can generally look people in the eye fairly well, though it is pretty intense for me. But, yeah, what the fuck am I trying to get at? So I thought I was, because I had good, speaking skill and I knew how to put people at ease, even though I absolutely despise small talk with every bit of my core. I'm good at it. And I know because that's all sort of the hypervigilant sort of type of response you have to a somewhat emotionally challenging childhood, as well as like an autistic profile. And so what am I getting at anyway? This is all, I decided that meant I'd be a good businessman. I don't know why I thought that. I just figured businessmen have to talk to people a lot. Not like a salesman, not one of those sorts of ambitions, but I just didn't, I was on the yearbook and I got along really well with the English teacher. She was cool. I liked her a lot, who ran the yearbook club. And I should have been a writer. I should have pursued broadcasting or writing or something more creative. But in my sort of GI American upbringing, I was like, business. So I went off to business school. And again, very few friends. Lots of friendly people. Like, I tend to, I don't think, I can be a little intense, obviously. But overall, I was like, just go along to get along guy. Then I got good at drinking late in college, graduated, realized almost immediately, just had this intuitive feeling of how absolutely horrible working was. Like having a job just seemed like, I'd had jobs. My first job was mucking horse stalls at age 13. Definitely worked a lot, but was really attracted to the idea of doing my own thing. And I heard about this opportunity to buy into an aquarium service little company thing that was like my own business. And I worked really hard at that, and I've developed, and it was great because I got to control my schedule, got to do everything I wanted on my own. Certainly a lot of work, but it also fit with a lot of my skills, a lot of my, 3D spatial visualization skills. I like working with my hands. I'm really handy. I used to be really handy until fast forward to my woodworking injury. And but that was my life. I was just a guy in his 20s living in Chicago, cleaning fish tanks, finally had sex, and drinking a lot, playing softball a whole bunch with other people, some folks that I knew and stuff. Like it wasn't like but I was also very good at computers, very good with tinkering with Photoshop and video editing, even before I started stand-up. And then I heard about a guy doing stand-up that I knew, and I was like, what? That's weird. And that's like my whole life pivoted at that moment. I looked up the Chicago comedy open mic scene, started going. I actually remember taking a date to an open mic because I was thinking of getting into it, and it was a fun date, good date activity compared to some of the other ones that are out there. And took an improv class, hated it. I was okay at it, but I was just like, I'm not sharing. Fuck, what are you, I'm supposed to share with people? I'm supposed to depend on them to be funny? I don't need their help. Get the fuck out of here, improv. Get out of here. Also, I didn't like the pressure that I was supposed to like deliver. It was fine. I actually think it was fun. I sort of wish I'd stuck it out a little bit more. Because that's when I sort of like clicked into some people who were also sort of creative types. Because that's sort of the thing that I'd always felt missing in my world was I never felt connected to other creative people. And that's one thing I'm hoping to still do. I still want to collaborate on creative projects somehow. I hope that this video is also a showcase for my video editing skill and maybe my storytelling skill. Like I'd love to work on other projects, possibly something with funding where there's like pay and money and I don't have to live in the utter horrible fear and terror of all that. Which, by the way, if you have any sense of this amount of work that this has taken, please donate a little bit if you can. I hate money so much. We're not going to get rid of money in our lifetime. I just want to build a world where we can even start the conditions, set up the conditions where we can begin the process of detaching ourselves and slaying the god of money. I can't, it's like, you have to think about how stressed out and how, like your parents, just starting at the youngest age of just the work that is compelled by the need for money, by all this compulsion. I mean, it's understandable, like need to purchase human needs from people who already have a lot of money, especially in this country, especially in America, where they wall off the goods, the scarce. They create false scarcities in order to compel our labor out of us, in order to keep this whole fucking soul burning machine churning along, the one the Democrats are so fucking proud of. I was going to do a story today about the State of the Union, but it's just Pete Buttigieg looking fucking creepy. Here, let me just play this and get it out of the way. Look at this fucking monster.
And thanks to our bipartisan infrastructure law, 46,000 new projects have been announced all across your communities. And by the way, I noticed some of you strongly voted against it, or they're cheering on that money coming in.
Look at this. Look at that goon. Look how he's sitting right at the camera. What a strange camera angle, by the way. Just like this, but like this is a GIF. We're gonna make a GIF out of this one, huh?
I'm with you.
That's going in the documentary. And then this actually is right before where he mentions this.
Removing poisonous lead pipes so every child can drink clean water without risk of brain damage.
Oh yeah, get up there, Kamala. Let them know. Let them know. We're going to eventually reduce the brain damage that our water causes. That's fun. That's the greatest country in the history of the world. That's the greatest, the most money we've ever seen in the entire humanity. The most ingenuous, ingenuous, the innovation we all love. And it's going to be the middle of the 21st century and will reduce the brain damage our water causes. Oh, baby. This fucking society is so rotten. This is the stuff. We just have we just need to do the basics. I know I completely jumped into the story, totally abandoned the first part of it. And don't worry, we're getting back to it. God, it just that's the part that jumped out of me. I know you've seen the creepy weird lady that the Republicans answered with, the lady in the green in the kitchen, the housewife that they had. She was terrified. She had the terrified voice. She had that voice that yeah, I'll do that later. That's just a different thought. Anyway, this jumps out at me that we're a country that's so proud of itself, but our water causes brain damage. Our water causes brain damage. Not all the water. If you're lucky, maybe it's not so bad. Maybe you got those lead pipes that have that coating of slime that prevents your water from causing brain damage. Maybe you can afford bottled water, which is another thing that's causing, and now we got all kinds of lead particles and shit. Not lead particles, I'm going to say plastic. This is the other big, disgusting plastic in all the water everywhere. Just some YouTube thing. Okay, so Pete Buttigieg is a creep. Our water causes brain damage. Look at this weirdo. He's going to be the leader someday, by the way, because he wants it. He wants it more than you. He wants it. You could be Jeff Bezos. All it takes is knee pads and selling books. Anybody could do it. I've heard people be like, oh, he just started out real simple. Okay, so back to the other shit. Thanks for that diversion. Thank you for putting up with that. I just had to get it out of the way. We'll leave Pete up while we talk. How's that? That's fun. That's fun. Emperor Pete. Pete Purpur. So in business school, I started comedy. I ended up working for the Young Turks. How did that happen? I went to my politics. Let's talk about that. So as I explained on the Letterhack very kind of clumsily, I kind of grew up with like a conservative dad. We weren't like a super political household, but I just sort of affiliated with my dad as a kid. And I knew I hated Democrats. I didn't know anything about anything except that I hated Democrats. And then one day, in around age 11, I became an atheist because I thought about it for a month. I was like, yeah, that's fucking stupid. And so ever since then, I've been at odds with my dad about stuff. Never identified as like, I'm a conservative. I'm not one of those type of guys, but it was always just sort of like, yeah, well, those guys are obviously dickheads. Just clearly some bullshit going on. But I largely just a kind of a classic American education. I didn't know what the fuck. I was taught all the bullshit. Cherry trees and World War II, you know, those things, that narrative. Abraham Lincoln went to a play, never came back, that kind of stuff. And so I was ignorant throughout most of it. But in my 20s, I probably would have said I was a liberal. I wasn't really I super into those labels or anything, but that's when I first started listening to the Young Turks, like the mid to late 20s, I guess, sort of the 2000s. So I was a listener to TYT in 2007, 8 maybe. They were part on Air America, so they were actually like the last of that Air America group that I tuned into. There was Pete's killing me here. I can't handle this. I'd rather look at nanoparticles here. Let's put up some of the stuff that you drink every time you. There you go. Oh yeah, Euro News. As a progressive brain, kind of independent thinking is kind of I've always had a pretty good bullshit detector. There was no progressive representation on news, on mainstream news outlets and stuff. So when Air America kind of came around, Al Franken show, the Rachel Maddow, Chuck D, and Liz Winstead trio, they did a show. Majority Report was one too. I've been a listener of since the very beginning, but more or less. I think he goes back even further. And then I started listening to TYT, and I recommended it to a buddy who's a close friend, and he, in deep TYT lore, wound up becoming one of their first hires. I drove cross country to help him move here. It was a difficult time for him, meaning like the company was still growing. No knock on the company for any of that. So they busted their butts when they were first expanding and all that stuff. And so I have kind of a connection to the company through that. And because of that connection, I had started doing stand-up comedy in 2009 and was an early adopter of other podcasts. I'd just be doing my aquarium job. I was by myself most of the time. And, then I'd have to, take my earbud out and talk to a customer or deal with somebody asking me some stupid question. Where are the fish? And I would be like, oh, they're in my pockets. I'd be wearing cargo pants. Big cargo pants guy. Love a cargo pant. I always have cargo. It's like, why wouldn't I wear cargo pants? Keeps my arms free for my lovers because my hands are not full of cargo. It's just smart. And anyway, but I listen to podcasts. I've probably listened to podcasts, 6 to 10 to 12 hours a day since 2004. Maybe a little less these days but I'm still listening to YouTube shows and tons of podcasts. Because the only other option, my chair broke. Look at this. This thing fell off. So now it sits down real low. What was I saying? The other alternative to listening to a podcast is your own thoughts, which is nobody wants that shit. That's terrible. That's the worst podcast. I mean, it's the same as having the radio playing all the time. And and I have a kind of head that spins out into crazy thinking sometimes. It's not always the most pleasant sort of place to be. Anyway, so TYT was part of my regular rotation, and another show that was in that was the Jimmy Dore Show. Actually, it was called Comedy and Everything Else, and his partner was Todd Glass. Steph was on there a bunch. I didn't know him at all. I was just a listener. I was a guy doing stand-up comedy in Chicago, cleaning fish tanks by day, entertaining the millions and millions of audience members by night. And by that, I mean the 2 to 19 other Chicago comedians that were waiting their turn to go up. I was working really hard at comedy. And so I was consuming a ton of comedy podcasts. I was listening to a whole bunch of them. And Jimmy's show was one I really liked. And he would occasionally get into some rants about politics. This is 2009, 2010, 2011. He's nowhere near where he is nowadays in his own political journey, which I happen to have a very weird perspective on, which is so strange for me. And so I was like, well, that guy's in LA. And TYT, my friend works at TYT. I'm going to just like, hey, check out. So I told my buddy, check out this Jimmy Dore Show guy, or this guy comedy and everything else. And I told him twice. I remember he didn't do it the first time. I mean, I just like reminded him after like a month. And they did. And I think Jimmy's first appearance on TYT was 2011, I want to say. And I remember being so like, oh my God, I made that happen. Holy shit, that's crazy. They actually talked to him and he's on the show. Look at him. That was, so I'm like literally the reason Jimmy Dore wound up on TYT. I think that had I not done that, they probably wouldn't have, I mean, who knows? It's not like they would have known about it. He would have been another comedian in LA, lots of comedians in LA, and they might have crossed paths at some point, but there's a very clear stitch that happened because of that recommendation. So there you go. That's something. That's something else, huh? And so because of that connection, I had started to do video editing as a comedian. I was filming lots of stuff for people. So I had camera, and I was always really good with cameras and like computers, and sort of have I don't want to say talent, but just an affinity for that. Mainly it's just, I don't mind sitting here at a chair, staring at a computer for hours and hours and hours, waiting for a blood clot to kill me from my, somehow in my legs, traveling up to my heart. So I need to get rid of the cat because she interrupts me and prevents me from dying of a blood clot, and reminds me. I try to be like, oh, she's just like an angel. She's an angel that wants attention. And I'm like, no, it just kills me. It causes all kinds of, whatever. So those skills and my friends vouch. I was starting to really get sick of the aquarium thing. I have a very difficult time staying motivated on something if I don't care, if it doesn't feel, if I don't feel a strong sense of passion or just like commitment, or that there's some meaning to it. There's so much meaningless drivel in our world, and the toil and the kind of the jobs, the compromise that regular workers have to make just to get by, especially nowadays with the prices going absolutely crazy. There's no way that this can sustain. There has to be major changes to the way our rent and housing and all that other stuff. But like, so I was pretty passionate about progressive stuff and about what Cenk was always yelling about, money in politics and stuff like that. I really didn't give too much of a shit about all their TMZ style misogynistic stuff. This is actually going to be something I talked about in the Letterhack, and I certainly will probably talk about more on this podcast, but it's going to come up in the movie because I have a whole kind of thing outlined about TYT's history. And I'm trying to be fair about it. I'm trying to be honest about it, but it's very boring to me to just do the same stuff people have already seen about Cenk's really disgusting misogyny, the way he was. But I've decided that even though I haven't edited it yet and I haven't really written it quite, but the angle I'm going to approach that topic is going to be about my own embarrassment, that I was not the type of person back then who was grossed out by that shit. Cause it's really gnarly. He tries to play it off. If you recall, in the video you've seen already in the first 46 minutes where he refers to the wrong word, he says, no, Oppo research is looking at everything. Did he say the wrong word here? Did he say the wrong word there? I mean, and I'm not, because the point isn't to call him out all over again for the misogyny stuff. It's hard to avoid how much egg he'll get on his face and has because of all that. But I think, the whole purpose of revisiting it is in my opinion, to kind of show that it's about using people, treating people like objects to be used, which is fine in a consensual scenario. I've had a few experiences in my life where mutual objectification was happening, and it was quite nice. But like in that sort of scenario, it's impossible to leave that stuff out of a history of the TYT, because it's already included a little bit, like with the reference to the Justice Democrats about how he had to quit because of all that stuff, and especially the Bernie Sanders story, which I think is just fascinating, like as a political watcher, as a political junkie. So I think it'll be a more interesting approach to it. Maybe it won't be interesting, but I think at least it's a different approach to it, to explore that from the lens of my own like tolerance of it. In other words, my own misogyny, right? That seems to make more sense. And because I want to talk about growth, the idea is that they will grow, and in a gracious, optimistic side of me. I certainly have other ways I could describe my whole feelings about this entire situation differently, but I'd like to see TYT grow. I think that Cenk needs to grow out of his capitalism, basically. And not that I am expecting this effort to produce that at all, but it's clearly, because ultimately the whole exploration of power dynamics is what I'm doing with this video. That's why I kind of am hoping that the whole thing is going to be received by people who have jobs. Maybe they've never even heard of TYT, but they sort of relate to the struggle and that employer-employee relationship thing. And the power dynamics. Are you allowed to say something? How much leverage do you have? What crap do you have to put up with? And that's why we started the union, because it was crap we were putting up with that we didn't want to put up with anymore. And my thesis, I'm kind of jumping ahead of my whole personal bio stuff, but my thesis of the whole movie is essentially that they covered up that, because any union drive you hear about invites the very reasonable question, well, why did they want a union? What was going on that made them do a union? And then you go, oh, it was done in secret. Oh, well, there's probably something going on there even more. And then you hear, oh, the boss rejected the union idea. He rejected voluntary recognition and then did union busting, a very aggressive union busting. Huh. Oh, well, now he's saying that they had some kind of complicity or duplicity, or they were tricked by Nancy Pelosi, the whole campaign thing. We were unionizing whether there was a campaign or not. We'd been at it for a while, way before that. It was happening whether he ran for Congress or not. That was just pure coincidence in terms of the yearly timing of that. He chose that year to make his stupid run for Congress, and then it ended up with this union busting stuff and this crazy lie that they told they still haven't corrected. And here we are now, several years later. So more of my bio shit. Fuck. I'm so tired right now. I just kind of want to stop and go to bed. Yeah. So I finally, I let my friend, I was like, hey, if there's ever I've been making short films. I got some editing stuff. I know you guys have, you're starting to expand. I don't know. They were at Current TV at this point. Cenk had done his whole experience with the MSNBC situation where he was a host on MSNBC, and then they kind of word was coming through that I think I might do something about this in the video, maybe not, but where the head of embassy at the time, Phil Griffin, I don't know, I doubt he's still involved, but they basically said Washington doesn't like your tone, and Cenk has told the story a bunch of times, and we're going to give you a weekend slot. And it would have been good money, but he would have been relegated to the weekend. And he chose not to because he had the Young Turks to fall back on. So he had his own little integrity moment where he got to say no, I'm going to say what I don't want to be. I don't want my, my journalistic integrity. I don't. How dare you try to control what I have to say? I'm gonna, screw you. Take your big check and your weekend slot, and I'm going to go do, enjoy the freedom I have at the Young Turks. And I think it's worth pointing out because it contrasts to the kind of case I'm making, is that they clearly, somehow, nobody at that company has talked about this story, has brought up the union busting, has done any news about Cenk's anti-labor law firms or the NLRB cases. And especially after the details come out that I'm looking forward to releasing later, the ones that I'm inviting TOT to come forward with, that whole story, because I know they know what story I'm referring to. Those details are the kind of thing that should be covered by the Young Turks. So the Cenk's experience with Phil Griffin and with MSNBC, to me, strikes me as worthwhile because it's both historical about the Young Turks, but also it fits into this contrast to where they are now with this whole thing, with their flagrant anti-worker behavior, union busting itself, just the act, like aside from the why did we do the union? And again, I can't answer, there's no again here, but I'm only going to share my specifics. There's stuff I'm privy to that I'm not going to share, but it's not, my specifics aren't the entire story. And the entire story will probably never be publicly told, and that's fine. There's certain parts that are more than likely going to stay quiet or stay hidden. But I'm choosing to stick my neck out and do this. And, another reason why I'm hoping people want to support, because doing this kind of thing makes me even more unemployable than I am. Like, how fuck could I possibly get a job being this guy with this documentary out there? So $5. Send me a little money on Patreon, and there's Ko-Fi links, and there's PayPal. Ko-Fi takes Stripe, like Google Pay and Apple Pay and whatnot. So I hate money so much, but if you can help out, please do. Because it's bad. I mean, it's really, I'm going to have to start doing deliveries in pretty soon, honestly. Nothing will hurt the production of this video more than if I have to go start driving around and bringing food to people's front doors, which is also going to bring all my depression shit roaring back. Those were tough days. I've done that before. Okay, sorry about that sidebar. I appreciate those who support. And if you can't, don't worry. It's fine. It's all right. I get it. We all got our own decisions to make. No worries at all. Share, like, subscribe. Just watch it. Whatever. That's all good. It's all good. It's fine. The world is filled with so much worse things happening right now that need money and attention than my little thing. I'm just hoping that there's enough folks come around and say, all right, okay, 3 years of work. That's worth $10. Something like that. Whatever. Okay. So I moved to LA. I'm going to kind of jump ahead here because this is getting long. Okay, good. We're still recording. I moved to LA in 2013 and sleep on a friend's floor for a month or two, and until I found my apartment where I'm at right now. I've been lucky to have the same roommate, and I'm incredibly lucky. If I talk too much about him, I'll probably start crying because I feel so much gratitude to the roommate I have. We're kind of like brothers. We've been through so many years and are really, really close buddies, but I'm mooching off of the poor bastard, and I need to make that right, because it's a terrible thing. It's horrible. He works so hard, and he does a lot of, he's just such a good person, and I have to make right the rent debt that I have. That's basically how I finance this video. But first few months, I sold my business in 5 weeks back in Chicago, and as I said in the letter hack, if you're ever going to sell all your furniture to and I put the word out on, I think, Facebook, like the comedy scene, because I did have like that network to tap into. And so a bunch of people did take me up on my cheap furniture options, and I promised to deliver like a fucking moron. I was bringing people couches and dressers and stuff, like all in like a weekend all over the city. It was so stupid. The promise to deliver. What an idiot. I mean, it's what helped me get some sales, but I think I might have had $600 off of all that for, like, it wasn't worth it. I needed the money. I needed all the money I could get, and I was glad to get rid of some of my stuff. We have so much stuff. It's insane how much fucking stuff we have. You ever think about all the containers in your life? What if you had to carry all your garbage with you everywhere you went for a year, even, or your whole life? You'd just be this enormous giant. Okay, whatever. It was a huge deal to move to get across the country, because I knew some other aquarium dudes who had similar businesses. They purchased clients from me, which was really cool, and they honored their payments. So I got some payments from them over, like, we made an agreement for like a year or two that they kept paying me a little bit, and that was cool. That was actually a little bit of income. That was really helpful during that time. So now we're in like 2013. I worked my ass off. I was introduced to Jimmy Dore, and a guy I'd never met, but I started being like his main sort of dude at TYT who did shit for him. Like I directed, I did studio setup. You might remember when he would have like Frank Conniff on, and Steve. I can't think of Steve's last name. Damn it. Sorry, Steve. Nice guy. Jimmy hasn't had him on in years, but anyway, so those were pretty exciting times. I was doing like using the TriCaster, I got really good at setting up that studio. I also did setup for the main show and like for Jenk stuff, and pitched in wherever was needed. They figured out I was pretty good with words, and so then they had me try out typing up headlines. This is actually something I forgot to mention in the Letterhack, is that like I became kind of like one of the main clickbait writers. I started writing headlines for the main show, and other shows, and like I got 2 YouTube certifications, one in digital rights management and the other one in audience growth and development. I got to fly to New York, stayed in a hotel in Chelsea. It was my one and only time I've ever been to New York. A few friends from comedy had already moved there, so I got to hang out and see some comedy stuff. And interesting place, that New York. Haven't been back. Not a big city guy. I'm so tired of living in cities. I really need to get out of LA. I could live in a shitty apartment somewhere cheaper, although certainly there's cheaper than LA these days, but God, everywhere is expensive. So that's also my goal, is to get out of LA and get somewhere where it's more in line with the kind of sensitivities I'm at with my issues. So finally working at TYT, and a whole life change, major deal. And then, but I was starting to have like massive mental issues. My depression was getting really scary and weird, and I was feeling really frustrated. And I ended up quitting in like early 2015. At which point, though, I still worked for TYT for about 4 or 5 months as a freelance YouTube publisher, because it's a difficult job to fill, to find somebody who has that combination of writing ability. I was doing the thumbnails too, graphics, thumbnail stuff, as well as like all the keywords, and understood the company mission and the company stuff. So you kind of got to really have a specific little medley of offerings. And so I was actually able to get a decent hourly rate for that. I think I was getting $50 an hour. And I remember just throwing it out there, figuring they would talk me down, and like, all right, fine. And I was like, fuck, that's great. That was way more than I was making by a lot. So like for a few hours, because I only work. I have nothing else in my life, but I hate work. Like the reason, like that's why I have faith that humanity, when we get away from employerism of whatever that even means, humans are willing to put in effort and do things and net some kind of result. But like whatever. I'm sorry, it's getting a field. So anyway, that lasted like a few months. That was fine. And then end of 2015 rolls around. Jimmy Dore reaches out and says, I'm starting to do my own channel. Do you want to come on and work on it and do stuff? And so it's like, all right, I needed the job. I was feeling pretty down and miserable. I wasn't really having a good time finding other work. So that's when Jimmy started doing his own show in 2015, which my participation ended at the end of 2016. So let's say like 13, 14 months of that. Longtime TYT viewers Jimmy Dore watchers might remember that era when Jimmy was like going to Bernie Sanders rallies. We went to, that was me. I was the guy chasing him around. I was the one holding the camera, doing the editing, doing the publishing. There was a couple other people that started to show up to do some other stuff. So I can't say I did literally everything, but like I was like the primary for pretty much all of that. I would go to his house, set up camera, and you had to do every job. I mean, I didn't do much. I don't even think any, honestly. Like I wasn't really involved in any story selection. And I usually didn't even know what stories we were going to cover until he started telling the camera the story. So I would type up headlines. I would work on keywords. I would do camera. I would do sound. And do sidekicking while trying to think of funny shit to say and say stuff. And I loved saying stuff out loud. That's my favorite thing, is to be on a microphone. My dream job is to be like a sidekick on a radio show where I don't have to do any of the fucking setup. I just sit down. I just absorb the world, think of funny things, watch movies, watch politics, and then barf it into a microphone, and then other people do the hard stuff. The stuff I hate about podcasting, one of the reasons I'm so inconsistent, is because of the post and the editing and the publishing. That stuff just... But I'm trying to do it myself. I mean, that's what else do I have? I'm here trying to claw my way out of the mud. So that ended, not on great terms. there's a whole bunch of interesting details probably to the Jimmy saga that people might want to hear about. Fascinating evolution he's had on his own right, for sure. But I'm just going to be upfront. Like, I'm not looking to start beefing with Jimmy online about stuff. So I'm keeping all he's connected to TYT. He's certainly, I can't tell my story without talking about some of the Jimmy stuff, but I'm not coming out here to try to beef with Jimmy about shit. I can barely handle the stress of like taking care of myself on a good day. You know what I mean? I don't need to, I'm not looking to do that. It's already enough, this whole other project that I'm doing with TYT. I guess the underlying core of all this is I don't want to do any of it. It really pisses me off that I have to do it. I'm forced to do it. No one's forcing me. I'm forcing me, but I'm compelled to stand up for myself, to tell the truth about this story, and to do it fairly, and to try to be honest and stuff. So let's see. Yeah. Oh, okay. After that, just really quick. After 2016, my working with Jimmy ended. That's when the Placone era started on Jimmy, because they got 2 cameras. So they finally started to get more cameras. He kind of, he's had his own journey with Jimmy and Graham Elwood. I remember meeting a couple times. I met, one of my highlights of working at Jimmy was when I met Michael Brooks. I was a fan of Majority Report, right, since the mid 2000s or so, and Michael was somewhat newish around Majority Report by then. I mean, he was already established as an on-air guy, but I didn't really think too much about meeting him. I knew he did a Donald Trump impression. As a comedian, I remember being like, yeah, we've all seen fucking Donald Trump impressions, but not that I was judging Michael for anything, but just an amazing guy though, man. I met him, so I hadn't really internalized his politics much by that point, other than just seeing that he seemed like a pretty good dude. And it's Donald Trump, and like his impressions were so funny because he could improvise within the voice and within the context of the conversations. He was really talented at that, among his many talents. And so I feel like it was a privilege to know Michael and to meet him. And then he was outside Jimmy's house, and I was like leaving, and I was like, "Where you at? You going somewhere?" He's like, he was on his phone, like trying to order a car up, and I was like, "Well, I'm going across town. I'll give you a ride. Where the fuck?" And so I gave him a ride to his sister's house, and we chatted. It was kind of cool. We stayed in touch on Twitter, and I went to his live show. He reached out to me randomly, even sometimes, just to say hello and stuff. Like, it was, I was really excited to, I never really pushed it because I'm such a nobody and I'm sort of hesitant about this kind of thing. But I wanted to go on a show and talk about performing stand-up with Dave Rubin. I talked about that in the Letterhack a good bit. So if you want to go check that out, you can find a little bit of Dave Rubin stuff. Because it was kind of funny. Kind of interesting, but that's not the only story I would have told him. But yeah, what a loss though, man. Fucking just, god damn it. These freaks, these dinosaurs live to be 90 something in government, and the world is just taking people like Michael from us at such a young age. What a terrible loss. Okay, so that's a bummer. Yeah, then I was just like struggling, man. I was having kind of like mental collapses and anxiety spirals and stuff, and I developed some contacts at the Young Turks, meaning because of my previous stuff, and I'd stayed in touch with people, and I reached out and said, yo, if you guys are looking for some video editing, because that's sort of really where I'm more comfortable. I really didn't like doing the headlines. I found that very exhausting in a bad way. Video editing is more in line with like kind of like something I think I could do. I know I'm good at it, but also like sustaining it. It fits with a lot of the way my head works, highly detailed and all that shit. And so they brought me on to do like a freelance project in the summertime for Nerd Alert. It was just a little package they had filmed, and they needed somebody to edit it. And I kind of knew it was sort of a test-ish of some sort. I didn't have like inside tracks on anything. I was still kind of like, just somebody that they knew they could trust, who had some experience with the company. And then they brought me back in October. We're in 2018 now. And that's kind of the critical period of time that feeds into this narrative I'm telling now. There's details about that employment relationship that I'm withholding for now. But the question of why I was involved and why I wanted to be involved and why I played a critical role in starting the union at the Young Turks is related to workplace conditions. It had nothing to do with Nancy Pelosi trying to disrupt Cenk Uger's political campaign. It had nothing to do with that. That was a false bullshit narrative. And as I said on the Letterhack, calling that a mistake is letting them off the hook. They held to that story. They never disagreed with the assessment in the articles that were written that they had spread the conspiracy, not in the New Republic article or in the Politico article. And it was a bullshit narrative that was intentionally left. It was slanderous. It smeared our integrity as workers as to why we started the union, because we were stupid enough to get tricked by Nancy Pelosi's minions in order to fuck up Cenk's political campaign, which is so crazy because it requires that he would say no to the union, which why would you make that bet? That seems like the stupidest bet you could make. Even yeah, Nancy Pelosi's good at the stock market. Do you think she knows how to read the future, right? It's all that illegal insider trading, of course. But yeah. Oh shit, I had a thought there that was going somehow. Oh, no, it'll all come back when we get into the comments here. So let's jump into this stuff. Did I finish all that? Let me just think. Yeah. So, oh, okay. Yeah. So let me just wrap that up because that is important stuff. Like I said earlier, if someone says, oh, they started a union, it's very normal to say, well, what was going on that they started? Why did they start a union? But if there's already another story to fill in the details, oh, they started the union because I was running for Congress and my political opponents are against me. And the establishment's against me, which is actually also true. Like that's partly why this thing is very nuanced, is because it is actually, and this is something I'm doing in the video, is trying to show the context for, in other words, I'm trying to justify why TYT might have been paranoid that the union was some sort of scheme. Okay, fine. I'll even grant you. That's what I'm trying to do, is starting to say like, okay, in the most fair way possible, even though I absolutely know the truth. I'm sitting in the chair where I decided to wake up the union effort because it had actually, my coworkers had reached out to the IATSE about a year before we woke it back up in 2019. So its original seed is actually to a time period before I came back to work there. But if you can make everybody think that, oh, this is just my workers got tricked or my workers are in on it for some reason, then you might dodge scrutiny of the reasons they started the union. And Jake might not even have a full grasp of all the reasons why we wanted to start the union. He probably doesn't quite have a full grasp of it. I hope he, helps fund the movie so he can find out later. He's probably curious. I'm sure his lawyers are probably curious. I imagine they're carefully paying attention. Maybe they're looking for something they can sue me. It'd be weird if they sued, if they try to bully me with legal stuff to try to get me to be quiet. Because is that really the TYT spirit? Like, come on, guys, just fucking tell the truth for once about this story, okay? Well, here's a good place to say a disclaimer that I wanted to say at the beginning. Just to be super clear, and then we'll jump into the comments, but I was laid off on January 7th. It was a Tuesday, I believe, 2020. I remember when the human resources person tapped me on the shoulder, and I could tell it was probably not a pleasant, although it was kind of a difficult persona to read, to be honest. But I was just remember thinking, oh man, is this the union stuff? Because I could scream back. I'm not a wilting flower. I have a lot of difficulty with my own internal weather systems and my emotional structure. Fast forward, as you've already heard me talk about, I learned I'm autistic, which is totally explains so much. I don't know why I felt like I had to say that just now. But I'm not like a pushover type of person. I stand up for myself if I have to. I got gigantic fucking balls and I'm stupid. Okay. So, but I wasn't planning on getting into I remember walking up to get fired. Not that I knew I was about to be fired. But I was like, well, this might have, if they're going to get at me about the union thing, I'm going to I'll have to make a decision. Hopefully I don't snap. But I sort of decided like, I better just shut up. I mean, obviously better off just keep quiet. Don't bring anything up. Don't say, don't ask, don't even hint at it. Don't try to, even if they start giving me shit about the union. I mean, I could have been pushed over that edge and I would have screamed, gotten into it back at them, but because you're getting fired, what the fuck, And yeah, it was weird though. Yeah. So anyway, I got laid off on January 7th, the same day. I think might have even been a news article, but it was when they announced a round of firings, laid off or whatever. It was Haas, Francis. So they canceled the breakdown because I was editing the breakdown. That was like my primary thing. I can get into more of that stuff if you want to hear more about that. Let me know. I did not a lot, but I was like the main backup for Haas's breakdown videos. This is right around when he stopped doing stuff, as you'll recall, 2020. So he got fired, quote unquote. I think he was already making a few $100,000 a month on Twitch, and I'm sure he wasn't making that much in a year at TIT. I mean, I don't know. I'm not privy to that knowledge or anything, but like I could tell because I did some of his breakdowns, like the backup, that his heart wasn't in it. It was clearly a lot more work than he wanted to do. I don't blame him. The money he was pulling in on Twitch was certainly far more, and just the work itself was far easier and probably more conducive to his project than writing a script and then having to drive into the studio and film it and then deal with an editor who wants notes and who wants to get feedback and then having to type up this because so it was a lot of work for him, and it was frustrating because things would be kind of slow. I could tell he was probably distracted, but also I understood, like, why the fuck would he care? So it was no surprise that he stopped doing it, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't think anybody's surprised by that. And same with Francis. Francis also seemed like his heart wasn't fully there. But he's a passionate guy anyway. I'm not trying to take away his advocacy. It was always seemed genuine to me. And the same Brooke Thomas. Sorry, I couldn't. Her last name and my last name are similar, so I always for some reason I can't think of her last name half the time. Brooke Thomas also got let go that time. Seems like a crazy. She's like an LA local newscaster now. She's incredibly talented. So those were like the three hosts because they were canceling the breakdown. They were shifting things around, and I was like the one behind the scenes person let go during that round of let goes, whatever they call that. And it was fine. I mean, like overall, like none of this has to do with the fact that I got fired. Like that doesn't. No one makes this documentary being like, hey, I lost a job. Now I'm going to spend all this time. That's not the case at all. Like my workplace conditions are relevant to this whole story, but this isn't about like losing that job. It's fine. You're supposed to stay nice with your former employers so you can get the recommendations and all that stuff. And I'm not doing that. So, patreon.com/winners and losers. Help me out. There's no money for me out there in the world ever. So point is, though, I'm not speaking for TYT Union. I didn't make it into the union. I had a very instrumental role in starting the union. I have confirmed many, many, many things I'm claiming with people who I know who are part of the issue. Solidarity did not end simply because I didn't make it into the union. And everything that I have in the video is backed up by publicly available documentation. I'm working on the lists, on the sources and stuff post for that. It's taking me a while because I'm trying to refigure. The first step I have to do is fix my Premiere Pro project file. It's all in one. It was getting unwieldy. It was taking like 5 to 10 seconds to save, which is super annoying, but that's the least of it. It was crashing constantly during like the last week, especially the last day that right before I published it. So like I have to repair that project file and split it into smaller pieces and clean up a lot. There's a lot of bloat and stuff in there because it's like it's easily 700 or 800 nested sequences. The whole total project file was well over 50 megabytes, which they could get a lot bigger than that, but just a whole bunch of reason, like where I got a 45-minute chunk or thing, video. That's what they call those things, right? Videos. And I'm only using like a 16-second chunk of it or something like that. So I'm like working on cleaning it all out, and that's taking some time. Plus this week I've been decompressing, watching stuff online a little bit too, but also just hitting some energy walls. I've been falling into those sorts of exhausting feelings and stuff. Jesus Christ, it's an hour already. So it's important to understand. I'm not speaking for TYT Union. That's not my. I feel almost like that's one of my things I'm very nervous about, is that I'm going to cross into that. And I probably will on accident at some time, expressing feelings or stuff that might seem that way. And I'm always willing to pull back on that. But I do have my own viewpoints, and there is this. That's why I'm kind of going to be focusing on my own specifics. And as the movie sort of goes along, we sort of learn more about my reasons, right? Because I'm central to this. I'm placing myself very center in this story, which is actually among the criticisms that I've been seeing, which I think is totally fair. The other disclaimer is disclaimer even what this is? I don't know. But I never saw any reason to distrust TYT's credibility or honesty or anything on any other story. I wasn't looking for that. I wasn't in there sniffing it out anyway. And I wasn't on the producer side. I was usually on the post side of this whole deal. But I never saw any reason to question any of that. I would probably tell you if I did. I don't know why I just used the word probably. I would tell you if I did. But on this specific thing, on the cover-up, on how the union got started, on the union busting, on my own employment conditions, I am calling out. I am claiming, and this is the stuff that I worry is like the legally actionable sort of stuff, but I am proving, in my opinion, I'm proving this was a lie, and I am proving that it was a violation of journalistic ethics, and it's a distinct violation of the principles that their audience thinks they're paying for. This kind of deception. And the argument, like I was saying, is that they intentionally didn't want their audience to inquire as to their employment conditions that led us to secretly form a union. That's the story they're afraid you'll learn. That's the story Cenk doesn't want anybody to know. And those are the reasons I'm telling it precisely. Because a powerful person said, you better be quiet. That's not the way I work. I'm going to be fucking loud. So here we go. Help me promote it. Help me share it. Whatever. Put me on have me as a guest. I'll say something stupid. Give me some money. All that stuff. So, all right. Damn it. Fucking pillow. Why did I act like a pillow just hurt me? I just meant that my pillow on my back pillow shifted, and now it messed up my thought pattern. That's what was going on. All right. So let's see. I'll tell you what. Well, I'm going to try to record another one. I just don't want to make this. This has already gone on and on and on. So we're only going to get into the comments. We'll do this one comment because I really did like this comment on the main video. And then I'll come back and I'll go through all these. This is a bunch of them. Is it showing up? Yes, it is. Okay. Yeah, then I'll come back and I've been replying to stuff. I hope people dig that. I just appreciate some of the stuff, some of these nice comments. This one is very good. AFKA Lori Victory Dragon, thank you for not letting this die. If I still feel betrayed and rather devastated about TOT union busting, I can only imagine how all the employees feel. It's about principles, justice, solidarity. Damn right, 33 upvotes on that one. So I'll just read this one here, and then the next time I do this, I'll read some more of these because there probably will be more by then. And then I'll jump over and we'll do some of these too from the last week's podcast, episode 188, where people left comments. How's that sound? Sound okay? Does that sound like a plan, I think? I don't know. I hope so. All right. So Wayne Ally 1. Very nice comment. One of the first ones wrote, the union saga at TYT was the first step in my road to eventually quitting that channel. Cenk has been consistently disappointing. From where I stand as a consumer, he's not a bad guy and still does some good work, but he has grown too self-sure and unable to do self-criticism of his positions, and that arrogance was very evident in the union fight where he refused to see it from the perspective of the workers. Good luck with the project. Yeah, I agree. Refusing to see it from the perspective of the workers. That's an interesting notion. Let me see what I wrote. I wrote, someone wrote same. Kenny Murata 9924 wrote same. I wrote, appreciate your words. I hope, this is so boring. I'm just reading my own shit on YouTube. I hope to reach people like yourself who are misled and kept in the dark about the union busting. I agree with your assessment and acknowledging the nuance. I think his arrogance makes him dumb more than it makes him bad. Saying yes to the union should have been such an obvious choice, even if he didn't like it. Busting a union at all was so stupid, but in the circumstance where he's running for freaking Congress on a progressive platform, that's world-class stupidity to the nth degree. Venus Bloodflow writes, same. I enjoy MR now, and if you haven't, I hope you give them a try. Sam is next. Okay, with a devil emoji, purple devil face. Do they make other color devil faces? I don't know. I like the purple one. Blurred Lens Pictures 3251 writes, to be fair, Cenk was always this way, and folks that tuned into TYT regularly were just hoping for leftist content. Cenk has always appeared to be what he is. I think there's some truth to that. And then someone else writes here, Saturation Station 1446. So why does no one ask why he came from Turkey to here? Not really a place our country traditionally would accept migrants from. Okay, I know that's not. He's from Turkey. It's fine. Yeah, so this guy, as someone who had some history and understood TOT, there's another comment on the other one that goes a little bit deeper. That's the one I think I was thinking of. But I do agree with this whole notion that Cenk is. I don't know if I don't agree that he has grown. I think he's always been too self-sure. You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, like, you have to have a certain kind of self-assurance and a certain kind of confidence on that narcissism continuum somewhere to do any kind of show. I'm talking about myself. I've doing stand-up comedy, doing solo podcasting, doing this kind of thing. You got to have some sort of assurance that you're worth listening to, that you're somehow interesting. But self-criticism of his positions is like a thing that I think he thinks he does. I shouldn't get too much into the logic, into the breakdown of all this, of the psychology stuff. But Cenk is like a logic bro. That's one thing I noticed. Like he likes to break things down into lists and gives you, okay, there's two factors. Okay, there's one thing here, two things. And he thinks that stuff is, because he sort of has a presentational quality about it, it makes for a good talk show host, makes for somebody who can kind of, quickly show their work as a person who is weighing in on the news of the day. And along with success in that sort of realm comes a reassurance or verification or validation of those tendencies that you already have. There's a bubble that forms around that. But what I was going to just kind of reiterate, here's what I wrote here, is that the arrogance of this whole deal is, it's just still stunning to me that they didn't say yes to the union. Like, just so clearly. And I don't mean like it was stupid in hindsight. I mean, like, it was completely insane and stupid at the moment. And it should have been very, very, very clear that busting a union while you're running for Congress, after you spent 20 years of your, building a career and a brand around workers standing up for themselves and calling out corporations for abusive practices and all that stuff. And with all that context, you still thought it was a good idea to bust a union? Like, even if it worked, let's say that they successfully got what they wanted, right? That they managed to make that the second election, the one on April 9th, went the other way, where in a democratic process, more workers voted against the union than not, and Cenk dodged the union. You're still a union buster at that point. You're still a guy who went out of his way to coerce, use the leverage you have over your workers to try to persuade them is putting it kindly. Persuade is not the, it's this very manipulative bullying campaign. So even if it had worked, you're still bruising your brand in a way that is stunningly stupid, incredibly dumb. Like, okay, fine, they didn't want the union. Like, I just can't believe that nobody around him, maybe this did happen, I'm just speculating, but was nobody like, and I kind of want to make an animation of this, like pick my Hank character, the cartoon guy, and like have him sort of explain, like, hey, wait a minute, everybody, wait. Like, maybe there's a big lever on the wall that says, like, stupidest decision in the world. Like, before you pull that lever, hold on a second. Let's just think this through. How's this going to look to our audience? You've been telling a camera for 20 years that workers need to stand up for themselves and that unions are a good thing because Cenk does make that case. As I talked to Matt on the Letterhack a good bit. When I was working at TOT, other than when we finally started actually talking about the union in very small conversations, nobody was talking about starting a union there except Cenk. Cenk was the one into the camera, and we were editing that, and then I was typing up headlines about those stories. He's totally the reason, the seed, who planted the idea. That's what's so fucking weird about this whole thing. But like, hey, dude, this is not a good, like, maybe, okay, fine, we don't want a union. Okay, fine, this is something coming out of nowhere. And even if it is a Nancy Pelosi scheme, I have a clever way around it. I think we can outsmart Nancy Pelosi. This is like Batman getting his nuts chopped off in one of those machines or something and barely escaping. Like, maybe we should say yes to the union. That'll piss off Nancy Pelosi. This is also sort of why I'm making the case that they knew that was bullshit, but they were trying to hide the truth. That's kind of I can't necessarily prove that exact thing, but like, it's so stupid to think that their audience is dumb enough to fall for this. And looking back on the situation, it's not even looking back, but like, there should have been anticipation that like, well, okay, we don't want a union, but it's going to be bad for our brand. And also, I might want to run for Congress again, or I might want to run for higher office at some point. If I have Union Buster on my record, that's potentially a liability to future ambitions, to future political campaigns. I can't even pretend to be pro-labor anymore once you're a Union Buster. And this is where Cenk's logic bro sort of thing would come into play, where he thinks because he makes this whole case that in some situations unions are okay in big companies such and such, but on small companies they're really not. And like, that's bullshit. I have a thing that's going to be in an upcoming part of all these little tiny media companies that have unions. There's plenty of organizations with places a lot smaller than Cenk, smaller than TYT, that are unionized. But it just should have been so clear that this was a dumb idea, that this was a bad move. And then he could have even fundraised, like Cenk likes to do, as fundraisers, to raise money for reporters, to raise money and come out and be honest and say, listen, guys, you guys know I come from Wharton School of Business, the school for evil vampires. You guys know that I have conservative origins and that I'm a big capitalism guy. My workers first, at first, let me be honest with you. I didn't actually want this union at first, but you know what? We're TYT. We're the home of progressives. We can do anything we set our minds to, and we're going to do this together as a family. And that's why we're trying to raise $200,000 from the audience, because our workers are worth it, and we're going to, this is going to support the company. And it doesn't all have to be for some just worker raises or something like that. We weren't looking to like bankrupt the company. We knew going in that there's like a lower standard for web and digital like pay. Everybody who works there kind of gets that you're sort of on that. You're kind of paying that activist. You're losing out on that activists, or because of this sort of ostensible activism that's going on there, even though it's a for-profit entity. So it's like kind of bullshit. But nevertheless, you're like, yeah, I mean, I'm here for the cause. I believe in progressive principles. I believe in these principles and stuff. So you sort of accept going in that it's going to be on the lower end, especially compared to in video editing. You'll find out my rate eventually, but I was not looking for a big bump at all. I wanted a little bit, but it was just like so small stuff. And that's why something that we get into later on, and I got to move on from this question, is I kind of want to investigate the power dynamics of this whole thing, because the details are interesting, and the details have to be clear and provable and supported by evidence and all that stuff. But they're just, to me, there's something deeper going on. I don't know why I'm picturing a Scrabble board all of a sudden, but there's like a whole nother like 3D component to the Scrabble board. This metaphor sucks, but like, I want to like burrow into the board and understand the origins of all these dig into the power dynamics and dig into the sort of nuances of subtlety, because ultimately, though, all of that funnels down to the singular concept of leverage. The two concepts that this whole project is about is the concept of leverage and the concept of respect, and how you treat people, and should you be held accountable for treating people poorly. But ultimately, everything in the entire system is about leverage. And leverage is a function of stress. So if you're stressed out, if they can create false scarcity around human needs, they can sell you apartments for incredible rent prices. They can sell you the food at high rate. They make money off of human needs, which I find to be absolutely disgusting. But all of that stuff funnels back to how tired are you? How able to stand up for yourself are you? How much leverage do you have? And collecting two people have more leverage than one person. So we were taking away, then this is not just Cenk, this is all unions, all union drives. We were taking away an asset from Cenk, from the union buster. We were taking away a source of their strength, which was our individual weakness. Our weakness as individual negotiators was their strength. That's the loss. That's the mechanism of control that they cling to, especially if you go to a vampire academy like Wharton School of Business, if you're from the system. And so collective bargaining is such a threat to these ghouls because you're denying them an asset they feel entitled to, which is far more leverage than they deserve, but it's a wildly lopsided leverage when you're only an individual. You can quit. It's not slavery. You can quit. We're not forcing you to do anything you don't want to do. Quit. That's not slavery. That's basically all you got, right? I didn't have to work there. I could have left. But the other choice was collective organizing and bargaining collectively. So that's the choice I made. So we denied it. I think that's what the emotional heft of it is like, oh my God, my asset, my power, my control is now being denied because they're not an individual anymore. They're a group. And this is true for all these labor drives and any kind of labor organizing. So I can articulate that a little bit better, I think, obviously. But okay, let's jump into some of this stuff. These are things people said to my podcast from This Is 189. We'll get back to the big one because there's a whole bunch of stuff here when I get around to this. TYT is not who they tell their audiences they are. Thank you for sharing. You are welcome. How are we doing on time? Yeah, I'm getting tired, honestly. Honestly, I'm going to turn everything off and I'm going to go to bed as soon as I'm done. I'm feeling these lights are kind of hard on my body here. Man, let me turn. Oh, that's better. That's so much better. These blue lights are still a little bit hard because these LEDs. Okay. Oh, that's better. Sorry, guys. Thank you for. I'm sure it's not like my face is necessary here for this whole thing, but yes, get used to this. This is mostly what I do is I need the lights a little bit low. Partly why I need to make this work for myself because I need to be able to control my photons in order to function. All right, we'll just read some of these. Thanks for sharing, says Snix Abia 6192. And I wrote, you're welcome. Chim 5010 says that was already disillusioned at the coverage of the electric bike thing in New York when they got everything wrong and issued no real apology. It was about that I stopped supporting TOT because he was on the show. And then watching ex-employees describe the employment situations really got me disheartened at how TOT treats its independent employees and manipulates them. And this is just icing on the cake and what I would expect. Being a union guy from the film industry, I know how important it is. And I can't believe that there are such ball busters. Thank you for your comment. I'm guessing the employment situations you're referring to are either the mods that quit, who I always, they don't, I mean, I've seen them sort of turning up a little bit in the comments, which I love seeing. Because they were like an inspiration to me. They kind of like seeing their thing and hearing them on the Letterhack too, that they did like a show on there where they also shared their experiences. But he also could be referring to, and I want to be clear, they were not employees. They weren't being paid. They were putting in hours and hours and hours a day of free labor. It's insane. I mean, for a really large channel like TYT, they were absolutely essential to the functioning of a chat like that with the amount of trolling that shows up in a TYT chat. And so it's difficult, emotional labor. It requires a lot of attention and focus. They had meetings. They were dialed in. They had policies they were imposing. They were they were hoping for some kind of compensation at some point. They weren't even given like free stuff. Like they should have been given something like that, you know? Yeah. So they put up they had their own rebellion. And I think that's a fascinating part of this whole drama. But I don't know if I'd call them employees, although just to be clear, I'm not saying that's what you mean. I'm just saying if that's what was meant by this phrase employees. But you might also be talking about Jeff Wiggins, Benny Carollo, or Sandy Lovis. I know that they had like contractual, whatchamacallits, I don't know, 1099 working situations, I think. I don't think they were full-on employees, but anyway, not to quibble too much about that, but yeah, that's all part of the story here. And each of those persons' experiences, I was like, yeah, none of that surprises me. It seemed like they all felt fairly disrespected at various stages along the way. And I was like, I get it. I'm here. I hear that. I totally hear that. Yeah. So thank you for that comment. I'll give you a thumbs up there. Almost clicked on the thumbs down. That would have been devastating for both of us. That's just me talking. Someone wrote, awesome. Artie Spangler says awesome. Oh, I wrote back. No, you're awesome, Artie Spangler. And it's true. I looked into it. You are awesome. Unfriendly Atheist 616 writes, hello, human, with a hand wave emoji. I think that's what. And I wrote, what up? Do humans say this one still? See, I'm trying to match the energy here. For some reason, my brain decided that this person is autistic, even though I have no idea. Only because they seem to be referencing the part where I talked about how I can read humans, and I did, and I was, and it's sort of a bit of my not like I just so you know, when I talk about autism, I'm not trying to describe. I'm describing how my profile manifests, not like this is autism means exactly what I'm describing. It's never that, because it's a neurotype. It affects. I don't mind the word condition or disorder, but it's a neurodevelopmental condition that affects the way your brain and body processes sensory and social information. So it essentially means your wiring is slightly different. It's a neurotype, but it has profound consequences, and it's quite interesting topic. Psycho Party 5948 writes, Hal Sparks rules. All right, excellent. Thank you for sharing. Hal Sparks. Is this like a sequel to Cider House Rules or something? Is this promoting a film or something? I don't know. TAS by APAC. TAS by, okay. New here. YouTube actually recommended part 1. Crazy, huh? Seems crazy to me. Checked around your channel. This video appears to be sausage making live. I appreciate the struggle and subscribed. Uh-oh, we got notice live sausage making button on your channel is missing. Should live stream something. I think they're talking about the photoshopping work, maybe. I actually have thought about doing some photoshopping live streams, like some art stuff. Might be kind of fun. Not just for this project, but for other animations. Kind of part of my other project idea that I'm kind of in. What did I write? I did write the kind of same thing. I might do some live streams. I have another YouTube channel called Tips for Busy Humans, which is going to it doesn't have a single video yet. I have recorded some for it, but it's probably going to be like podcasts where I share tips on all this Photoshop and Premiere Pro. And also I want to do a series comparing Premiere Pro and DaVinci Resolve, because I'm starting to switch over to DaVinci Resolve. I actually edit my podcast on DaVinci. I really quite like it compared to Premiere. I think Adobe is an unethical company with the subscription model. I think it's absolutely horrendous. The amount of the $6,500 a decade that we spend for that software and how unstable it is. And, but I also have a fondness for it. I've spent most of my last 15 plus years of my life with my face buried in Adobe software. So, but I really love DaVinci Resolve it's the full version is $300. You have it for life. I can't afford that someday maybe, but the free version is like 95% of the program. And it's so amazing what you get. How stable and smooth it is. It's not perfect. It has issues, but anyway, I think it'd be fun to do live streams. I don't want to do like little animation projects and put up other kind of things. I sort of have this notion, this actually relates back to Michael Brooks. When he had Richard Wolff on and they did the ABCs of socialism, this is just a small example or like a prototype, I guess, where it'd be kind of cool instead of doing like live streams where I'm like trying to pretend to be Haas or Vaush or Vanguard or any of those other ones, any live streamer, pick your poison, and just getting into the day's Twitter drama and all that other stuff. But maybe like a project live stream where we do art stuff and it's like making a video. And so like this, I saved the audio. I have it somewhere on my computer where they did the ABCs of socialism, where Richard Wolff gets into and you've got bread and somebody needs a t-shirt. And he's talking about just sort of the basics and stuff. And like, maybe it'd be fun to animate that, but viewers will hang out while I work on it. And then I can be like, okay, I need to draw a house. What do you think? Should I make it like okay, how about a garden? Or, maybe we're going to draw a vegetable. Someone pick a vegetable. And then like people will be like cucumbers, and then there'll be cucumber emojis. And then they'll be like beets. And I'll be like, we're doing potatoes, right? Something like that. Or I will take suggestions and then do stuff. I'm good with the pen tool, but also very good with the shape tool in terms of like that art shit. Be kind of fun. What is this? Oh, this one guy. Okay. I don't think, yeah. Pure Evil Fenord writes, okay, why am I watching you prep the video I'm trying to watch? So I'm 30 minutes into 2 hours and I'm watching you do Photoshop. Yep. And so I think I wrote, hope you didn't we're distracted by my fun, casual Photoshopping, not waiting for the doc to start. Lol. Either way, thanks for giving the channel a look. Task by APAC writes, go Hank, go. Let's give you an upvote for that one. Cav J, one of my main friends who has been a supporter on Winners and Losers, I think found me on the old Suck Professor. Just a kind, wonderful person, a real gem of a human, a great guy, great human. The people who knew me before this all came up, I'm always going to have a big old place in my heart for y'all, and Cav is one of them for sure. Might even be the king of that group. wrote part one of the documentary is already on the channel. It is fascinating. This is just Hank's informal podcast. Thank you, Cav. Nice PS hotkeys. You're welcome. What happened to the iguana? So yeah, great question from, by the way, sorry, Snixabia 6192 is the one who complimented the PS hotkeys. Mia writes, what happened to the iguana? And then Snixabia writes, that deserves a standalone video. And yeah, so here's the answer. He was the folks who cared for him. I was part of that group. We all kind of had our own little roles. I did a lot of the massaging and some feeding occasionally, but the others did a lot of the dirty, gross work too. Like they deserve, massaging is a fun bit, where they would clean out his shit and stuff. And like, I remember getting these like bug traps that tried to help because there was some bugs flying around and stuff. And like, we were always working on kind of like expanding his little spot. It felt like he was a little confined in there. Although if you look at other lizard cages, he had a pretty decent setup there. He seemed pretty okay. I don't know anything about iguanas, but he was a sweetheart of a baby boy. He's in the video a little bit too. I really enjoyed Mariguana, and like he would perk up. He would get into his sort of like, that's the pose. Whenever I'd go up there and rub him and stuff, and I always enjoyed putting my hands on camera. I got to perform. So I wrote that he was rehomed. Yeah, they found a new place for him. When I left, he was still there. So like they eventually got rid of that. And to TOHT's credit, they let that thing be in there for a while. It was kind of a fun part of the office, the Mariguana stuff. They I gotta give them props for that, because management might have said, fuck that, what are you doing with this whole thing? What the heck? I guess he was just, and again, don't quote me on this, but I think Mariguana was just like, someone abandoned him outside in a aquarium, in like a little aquarium or something, when they found him. And they just found this animal out in the street, basically on the sidewalk or something. I think that's what happened, something like that. And so then I think they did a fundraiser. This is all when I wasn't there, so it would have been like probably 2016 or 2017, and built that whole thing. Actually, I do remember I was working on a lock. They had like this magnet thing, and it was like rusty or something. So I was going to build like a wooden sort of not like something that was like a movable piece that switched. I do recall working on that. That was kind of, never really followed through on that one. So then I wrote about, someone said it should be a standalone video, and I agreed. So maybe if we ever go out there and see Mariguana, we'll film it a little bit and see how he is. I think it'd be fun to see if he recognizes us if he gets excited or something. You know, who knows? It's hard to tell. He's a lizard. They don't have eyebrows. So it would be kind of cool, though. You can kind of read their body language, I guess. I imagine he might. It's also something, too, when this cat, if I find a cat a home, I'm so eager to see how she, obviously I want her to be happy and to settle into the final phase of her life. I mean, she's only 8. She's got a long time to go still, but it'd be great if it's the final home she ever gets and it's a good home. But like, it'd be interesting to go back like in a few years or something, or in a year or whatever, and see how she responds. If she gets, I can't imagine. I mean, she was starving outside my building. And so she and I do have this connection. So I assume she'll remember me and some stuff, you know, but, you know, that's fine. Sixebia says that they think lizards are gross and they couldn't massage them. The gross part was when he'd get these growth, like his, they have to shed their spikes, and it wasn't doing, I had to like pick them off. That was the gross stuff. It was really pretty gross. All right. YouTube is throttling your video for my channel, says Sound Surgeon 3293. And I said, well, heck, hope it finally comes around. Appreciate the interest. I did have a thought. This is not all that interesting podcasting, but maybe you were seeing a low resolution version because it was letting you play. I think YouTube will post a video, but you don't get the HD version yet because that takes longer to process. So it might have been just because you were really close to me hitting publish, or it was being throttled. I mean, I don't know. I know that throttling stuff does go on, I think. I don't know. AFKA Lori Victory Dragon, a name I've seen in the chat around a little bit. Thanks for all your comments. AFKA Lori Victory Dragon. Cenk 100 would be great in Congress. He knows how to grab attention. His bombast would be undeniably helpful on the steps of the Capitol and in the halls of Congress. Of course, that's assuming he wouldn't pull a Fetterman. I don't think it'd be really weird to see him pull a Fetterman. I do think you'd probably, if he sustained a career in Congress, it's likely there'd be compromised votes and shit, the kind of stuff AOC does that pisses off people. That seems inevitable in almost any circumstance. But no, I would be really surprised to see the guy do a full-on Fetterman. The way that guy's gone from pretending to be this big progressive to, you know, just whatever the fuck he's become since the genocide's been going on, and since all, it's. I haven't tracked it all super closely, so I don't want to just start throwing out details. But I've just seen people calling him out for being the way. It's like complete. He denied that he was a progressive, or he said he's no. It's just like, you're such a scoundrel. What a scoundrel. And I guess he's a fancy lad who went to Harvard, so I didn't actually know that. Cosplaying in his hoodie. But I wrote, yeah, like I was saying, despite all my issues, I largely agree. I don't know how much actual legislation would result if he were in Congress, but it's likely he'd be a thorn in the leadership side, which is good. Like, he should stop with this presidency nonsense and do a proper run for Congress or CA Senate. I think there are substantial roadblocks to that working. To be fair, his misogyny content being the main thing, so it seems very low probability, and that's part of the stupidity of choosing to label himself a union buster, makes future political campaigns a tougher sell, to say the least. Thanks for the comment. Yeah, I mean, that's what's kind of interesting about this whole scenario is, like, even right now, even today, I could probably vote for Cenk for office in terms of being a politician, because I don't assign my morality or my ethical core to the people I vote for. They've gotten us to feel that way. A lot of people sort of assess their vote to be an endorsement of that person and everything that they stand for. And in an idealized society, that would you'd probably want something like that. But I think that's sort of nationalistic almost. Not to say that I'm trying to accuse those people, but it sort of speaks to that. They've got you individuating, like the individualism of your vote is so much of a degree that it's only about your own moral stance and your own moral character, as opposed to maybe another way of thinking of it is as a responsibility to those who don't have your privilege. And it's so gross. I talked about this on a recent podcast, I think 187. It's like going back to the fight right now within the leftist sphere of voting for Biden and the not voting for, and for people that I've seen who are of less smart or far less privileged groups than I am as a straight white guy, who have made cases for why voting as disgusting as it is for Biden, is to keep Trump out. And I've voted for Democrats. Basically, if it's down ballot, I always vote for this as far left candidate as I possibly can. But I vote against Republicans, and but this, like, Joe Biden is a real tough sell. The guy's a murderer. Like I said in the podcast, just to summarize, like, I don't want, like, that we have such a steeper climb organizing labor and some of these administrative departments and administrative executive functions within the government that under Republicans is such a steeper climb, especially with what's being promised under Trump and the fascists that he's in, the dictatorship that he's looking to impose, the militarized police. But look what the Democrats are doing in New York. You know, those are Democratic politicians. Eric Adams, of course, he's a cop, and Kathy Hochul. They've got the military searching through people's bags just to get onto a train. I mean, this is a police state. This whole society is a rotten fucking slave empire that evolved into a work cult. We still do slavery here. We call them criminals. We call them prisoners. We just stopped calling them slaves. And we didn't ban slavery in this country. We nationalized it. Like, this is a horrible society. And Joe Biden is among the worst people our society could produce. And now he's a child murderer. So I'd like to see him arrested at the inauguration. But it's undeniably true that the fucking Republicans are worse. It's just, but, like, how are we supposed to talk anybody into it? Not that I'm even trying to do that, by the way. If you feel that your vote for a politician reflects your character, and that means I think that's totally fair. Go ahead. I'm not here to invalidate or validate that. That's fine. I don't apply that, though. But Joe Biden, I think the Democrats are completely irresponsible, to say the least. They're derelict. They're complicit. They're genociders. I mean, you have to realize how much the system that the liberals are committed to defending, is built around violence, is built around domination, subjugation, relationships. They're not looking to upend any of this stuff to get rid of the whole fucking deal. For me, it's I want sloppy democracy. I want democratic institutions with an aggressive cultural expansion up towards making human life better in a way that sustains the planet. Eco-socialism might be a word. I don't know. The words all get annoying, but the liberals are committed to it, and they're just as violent. And I would maybe not say just as, but it's harder. It becomes harder to make that statement when you got Joe Biden, who's one of the history's greatest murderers of children. Joe Biden has just helped slaughter tens of thousands of children. There's a story in the news right now that a kid, and I think more than one person got killed, but this kid got killed by one of the United States' airdrops because the parachutes didn't open properly, and so that they're dropping food on people than killing them. I mean, it's every bit of this thing is just this immense horror, and so it couldn't think of something more reckless and irresponsible than what the Democrats are doing by allowing this fucking old. I don't even like calling them dinosaurs because I like dinosaurs. And also, they were young dinosaurs. They weren't all old people. But this freaking mummy, Joe Biden, imposing himself on the country even further. We're so tired of these people, especially his generation. I'm not even a big blame the generations guy, but like that cohort of our world was using outdated politics and information in the 80s. He still hews to an old world that only ever worked for fucking assholes like Joe Biden. So what am I getting at? Anyway, the point is that, like, I don't think if Cenk were running for Congress, he'd probably be pretty far to the left. I think he's comparatively to who his opponent would be. Maybe I would have to consider voting for him. Obviously, I can't. But, like, I was kind of excited about his run for Congress, even though I had been organizing a union against him for very good reasons that you're going to learn eventually. Cenk running for Congress it created a big kerfuffle within the internal culture at TUAT. Some people felt if he won, it might mean bad things for the company, or maybe because I don't know, just because it would be very disruptive. I guess some people didn't have strong opinions one way or another, but I was kind of like, yeah, I hope he wins. I think it'd be good. I don't know. I mean, in terms of where we are in Congress and the type of humans we allow into these leadership roles, Cenk has personality traits that would make for interesting, I don't want to say entertainment, but I think he would go in there and probably not shake things up, but he'd be a pain in the ass. I would still probably argue that. I mean, obviously, as you're going to learn, I have major issues with this dude in terms of that. But as far as he'd be probably closer, because I don't think he's getting to Congress and be like, no, I'm not for raising taxes on the wealthy, or no, I'm not for expanding the social safety net and the spending that the government does to help people. He'd be within that realm. I think he's trapped in the concept of electoralism. I think there's a critique there, and there's like a lot of interesting discussion to be had around the power of labor and the power of the labor movement. And that's something I've experienced myself, as far as like, I keep referring back to the Letterhack podcast, but I mentioned that like, it's like TYT is kind of like a cul-de-sac of ideology. Like you kind of get, if you get pulled down that road, you're not going to go further past their sort of calling balls and strikes kind of cul-de-sac of what it means for progressives to resist the establishment while trying to enter the establishment wing. And I do think there's some potential to electoral. I don't know why you'd give that up when that conversation comes up. And like Michael Brooks had a lot to do with sort of opening my eyes a little bit more to like international socialism and the kind of ideas that emerge from that sort of analysis. So and the thing is, like, my dispositions towards socialism and communism and all those other things, and I find those like the labels are just so weighted, and there's so much baggage to those labels. And I even just using the labels, you end up kind of aligning yourself within the certain well-worn grooves, like the same route up a mountain that's very crowded and very like there's just so much. I like to try to find different ways up the mountains. That's why I want to make a documentary about work, but built around the concept of entropy. Anyway, my dispositions I would have been very, very open to like a leftist plucking me out of the TYT cul-de-sac of, this is what progressives are fighting for. We're fighting to get rid of money in politics. We're fighting to increase the social safety net. We're fighting to make things more fair in the workplace. That's one that Cenk needs a lot of fucking correction on. But I just wasn't exposed to it. I just didn't have that sort of person or that thing. And so, and I know this is a lot of people's experiences in the last several years, and everybody kind of encounters this, taps into this sort of ski lift, like what's the ski pulley, the one that like pulls you up, and you got to, not even the ones with the chairs, the ski yanker, you know what I'm talking about. So people tap into that at different points, and it pulls them up the hill a little, and then maybe they come off of it, or maybe they crumble down, or they get somehow dragged off into the right, or, these various sort of intersecting wormhole things where people travel along this continuum. But working for Jimmy Dore, working for Cenk Uygur, having to have a job, and my woodworking job especially too. I fucking lost full use of my hands from that job. You had no benefits, no health care, except lots of free wood. By the way, this is a pretty cool candle holder. Check that out. Isn't that fun? I have a bunch. I wanted to build my own Patreon rewards. So my plan was to build woodworking items for Patreon and sell them as fundraising and stuff. So I mean, actually, I'm still open to that. I have a lot of stuff. I just can't do any woodworking anymore because my fucking wrists are fucked. So what am I getting at? Like I was very open to being like persuaded by Marxist concepts and socialist concepts and a lot of the different intellectual thinkers of the time, and the different sort of, the different actions of the different like labor movement, and sort of understanding all that through the historical lens. And so like, and that's sort of the place I've been in my own political development in the last 4 or 5 years. I want to say it's embarrassing, but I just didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. I knew what I knew. I knew that the propaganda of the childhood I had, the education you get from American public schools, is totally mythology about the founding fathers and what slavery means, and and then trying to get my head into and stay open-minded about the colonialists past and indigenous perspectives. And I still have a long way to go on all those roads. But it's such a It certainly seems to me that the story that we're doing is that Europe basically took the destroy a planet in 1,000 years challenge. And how do you do that? Well, you invade and destroy every culture you can. You use, I don't want to say superior, but you use your military technology, the technology of your immorality, especially, to take over places, to impose your will, to produce labor and subjugation, and you use that to funnel wealth back to the homelands, and in so doing you consume as much of the planet as you can until you run out of land, and then the world, quote unquote, matures into something more modern like we have, with more modern economic systems, but it's all still about harvesting the entropy of other people, including the notion of our psychological frontier, even, where they're trying to take as much. Every time you're looking at your phone, every time you're thinking, having these thoughts, you're still being harvested by the colonial project of you are there as a resource to be had. The big data is horrifying. So we're in this sort of twisted world, but yet let's not think of it as very modern, since we still have water that causes brain damage, right? So point is, Cenk As A Politician would probably be okay, I guess. The thing is, though, like I say in this comment, that all that stuff that comes up in the video with the misogyny, with the videos from the past, those are devastating. You really can't get past that. It's more than, and you'll see this is a little bit of a spoiler. It's not much really, but you've already probably heard him say it. But like, he was just trying to be Howard Stern. I mean, in a sense, the guy's got to come up with an easy shorthand to sort of put it in the past. And it's also not totally fair to just completely like try to malign him with all that stuff. It's because that's also, just to touch back on what I was saying earlier, is like, that's why for me, I'm going to be talking about how embarrassed I am that I wasn't repulsed by all that back then. So I've grown. I'm hoping people take me on good faith when I say that. And all of that old misogyny stuff, though, in a political thing, which I think one of my favorite sequences in the video is the Mike Tyson's Punch Out part. I just love that whole thing. Where Cenk can't have a political career because of that stuff. I just think that stuff is so upfront and so easy to come out as a cudgel. And another reason why the union busting is so stupid, because like, perceiving, you're supposed to be a good businessman. You're supposed to know the market, and not understanding that your audience would care that you did union busting. And they're especially, this is the bet that I'm making with my silly project right now, that the audience will also care when they learn the conditions that drove us to start the union. My conditions specifically. I think the audience is going to care a lot about that. I hope they will. Some of them won't. Some of them are probably going to, hit me for being a obsessive weirdo. That's a criticism that's expected. So I think he's kind of foreclosed on his political ambitions, and he's only going for the stunt sort of shit anyway, like this presidency thing. But like, I'd be curious still. Run for Congress. Show how brilliant you are. Michael Schur tried. You guys, Michael Schur and Cenk are these political masterminds. Well, how come Michael Schur didn't win? I mean, oftentimes a person with political ambitions knows that their first time out is going to be tough. Sometimes it's just feeling it out. You don't necessarily expect to win going in. You want to, but usually, oftentimes especially if you're not coming from like a very big foundation as a celebrity or something like that, you're going to have to go a few rounds of loss before you pick up enough steam and you make enough connections. You make better decisions the next time. And so I'm pulling for Michael Schur to come back out, because I like to make fun of it too, because it's kind of funny to me for some reason. And I always I know Michael, but I would be surprised if he knows my name in person. I'm sure he would recognize me, but we had multiple conversations. He has a good vibe, friendly enough vibe. I'd like to hear him come out and talk about the union busting that his buddy Cenk has done. I think that's interesting. Or I think that should be necessary for a politician from the Young Turks sphere. Same with Nina Turner. She's been silent on this whole thing. I want to see her be questioned about her. You know, she's worked at TYT. And, you know, her show is called Unbossed. I don't think she does that anymore. But she's the only one there that doesn't have a boss. So speak up. She benefits, and same with Michael. They benefit directly from the labor of these people. It's not just some group of workers, some other company where they can make and, you know, scream and yell about. You directly get that labor. So there's a causal chain there that should compel her to come out of her silence about the Young Turks union busting. So that's another thing I'm kind of hoping this thing ends up doing, I guess. Maybe not. You know, whatever. Can only... No point freaking out about it, I guess. But yeah, I don't think Cenk has much hope for running for Congress. I mean, it would be interesting. Do a proper run though. Do it in the district where you live. Announce it early, like 2 or 3 years early. You don't have to work too hard until the final year, but start laying the groundwork. Build up the machinery. Set it all up. And you know, so far we've only seen 2 stunt campaigns for him. So I don't know. Maybe you'll get my vote. Maybe. So, all right. Well, you know what? I was going to do a lot more. I ended up talking way too much. Probably said a bunch of dumb shit. Thanks for if you're still here, thank you so much. There are a bunch of other questions I want to answer, like why did it take so long? And there was just a whole bunch of comments on the other one. This is where we are now. I just go and go and go. I'm worried already, starting to do all that regret thinking right now about all the stupid shit I said. Yeah, that's it, guys. I'm going to say goodnight. Say goodbye. Thank you. 189 in the can. Where are we at? What do we got with the video? Just a quick update. Yeah, I'm working on the project files. It's a little bit tedious. Got to get some good days in. Sooner I can get rid of the cat, the easier it'll be. And it sounds like I'm blaming the cat, but like, God, it's so distracting. I can't, because I get into these obsessive loops where I worry about the cat and I think about the cat and the cat. And then it's like, I need headphones and my fucking computer screen. And I can get, because I have this hyper-focus thing, this autistic hyper-focus, like myopic kind of, I'm sure I'm also ADHD, but like I can get really fucking hyper-focused on stuff, which is why when the cat meows at me, I go, "Gah!" Like, and it's like physically shocks me to be distracted when I'm in that state. And that's what I need. I need to get that to help. It'll help me a ton. Yeah. It's all about minimizing variables. Bringing an animal in my room was the stupidest fucking thing I could have done this last year. God, it's so annoying. But I saved an animal from dying out on the street. So, yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. I hope you're into this. I hope you're okay with my style of podcasting. I'm hoping to get guests. I really do think I need to start that up again. I used to have lots of guests. It's just, everything is a bit much for me right now. So I'm trying to just keep my energy set so I can keep doing this podcast, but also keep progress going on the video. Like I've been saying, if you can find it in you to throw in a few bucks, support a little bit, a couple years worth of work you've already seen, lots of stress, lots of other work coming up. I'd appreciate it. And of course, don't stress if that's not your jam. I get it. I know it takes a lot to get people to part with their money, especially these days, man. It's what a brutal freaking society we got going on here. Why am I moving that? Oh my God, look at those shrimp. Look at them having at it, getting in on that food. They got a nice big bath today, so they're a little active. Very fun. Good night. Take care. Take care of yourself. Good job. You did a good job clicking on the YouTube video and leaving comments and stuff and all that. So go on and click something else now. See you later. Bye-bye.